I'll never forget the sound of her heels clicking on asphalt that morning. Sharp, deliberate, like a judge's gavel coming down on pavement. I was 12 years old, standing in our driveway with a sponge in one hand and a dream in the other, when Patricia Holbrook decided I didn't belong in her neighborhood. It was a humid Saturday in Riverside Estates, the kind of gated community where lawns looked cloned and mailbox colors required written approval. The sun was already warm enough to make the blacktop shimmer. Birds hopped on sprinkler heads, lawns gleamed in geometric perfection, and somewhere down the block, the soft hum of a leaf blower droned like background music to suburban serenity. I was crouched beside my father's Tesla Model S, working the sponge in steady circles, watching the suds catch rainbow light in the sun. The citrus scent of car soap mixed with the earthy smell of fresh-cut grass, a weirdly perfect combination of work and peace. The driveway was my kingdom. 3 cars lined up like soldiers. The Tesla, a vintage Mercedes 280 SL, and the family's Range Rover. I was washing them one by one, earning money for the Robotics Nationals trip in Dallas. Dad had offered to just pay for it, but I wanted to earn it. It felt right. Work, sweat, progress. That was the Chen family way. I was completely absorbed in my rhythm. Rinse, scrub, rinse again, when I heard it. Click, click, click. The sound of disapproval in high heels. Patricia Holbrook emerged from across the street like a villain in pressed linen. She wore a blindingly white pantsuit, a pastel scarf, and sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Her lips were pursed, her binder hugged tight to her chest, as if HOA bylaws were divine scripture. I'd seen her before, always patrolling, always inspecting, but this was the first time she crossed the street toward me. She didn't say hello. She didn't even smile. She just started taking pictures with her phone. My bucket, the hose, me. "Excuse me?" I said, blinking soap suds from my arm. "Can I help you?" Her mouth twisted in mild disgust, as if my politeness offended her. "Young man," she said crisply, "you are not allowed to operate an unlicensed car washing business on residential property." "This is a private community," I blinked. "I'm just washing our cars." "Uh-huh." Her tone was syrupy, mocking. "And who do you work for exactly?" "My dad," I said simply. She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Oh, sweetie. Sure you do." Her gaze flicked toward the house, our house, and I could see the calculation behind her eyes. She saw the cars, the brick driveway, the big oak trees, and yet she didn't see us. She saw what she wanted to see. A kid who didn't belong. A nuisance lowering property values. "These are my family's cars," I repeated. Firmer this time. "Listen," she said, flipping open her leather binder like a cop pulling out a ticket book. "The HOA has very clear rules against commercial activity, and we certainly don't allow people to just play with expensive cars they don't own." Her laugh was brittle, rehearsed. "You know, you people always think—" She stopped herself there, mid-sentence, but the words she didn't say hung in the air like exhaust. I felt something tighten in my chest. My hand clenched the sponge, dripping water on the asphalt. "My dad owns this house," I said quietly. She ignored me, scribbling something on a printed form. "You have 5 minutes to shut this down or I'll call security. If you continue, you'll be fined for unauthorized activity. And don't think I won't escalate this." With a final, patronizing smile, she tucked the paper into my bucket, turned on her heel, and walked away, phone already at her ear. From the corner of my eye, I saw curtains shift in nearby windows. Mrs. Rodriguez peeked out from next door, concerned. Patricia waved her off like a queen dismissing a servant. I stood there, frozen, the water hose spraying the ground, soap running in little rivers toward the street drain. My face burned with humiliation. But beneath that, anger began to simmer. Inside the house, I could have called for Dad. He was in his office upstairs, the blinds half open, working like always. But I didn't. Not yet. I picked up the cease and desist notice she'd dropped. An actual HOA form. My name blank? Violation of Article 7. Section B scrawled in blue ink, and folded it carefully. Then I looked across the street at Patricia Holbrook's perfect colonial house, her manicured rose bushes, her glass windows that reflected the morning sun. She was inside now, gesturing dramatically as she spoke into her phone. She thought she knew everything about me, I whispered. She thought she had all the power. But in exactly 14 days, the HOA annual meeting would take place in our community, clubhouse. And what Patricia didn't know, would cost her everything, was who had been quietly funding the neighborhood, park renovation she'd been taking, credit for all year for the next 2 weeks. Patricia Holbrook turned our driveway into her personal surveillance zone. She might as well have pitched a tent across the street. Every time I stepped outside, her blinds twitched. Every time our sprinklers came on, she took notes. And what she didn't realize was that every complaint she filed, every violation she invented, was building a paper trail that would destroy her. Day 2, she filed a complaint about our excessive vehicle collection. We had 4 cars. The rule book allowed 5. She attached photos anyway. Day 4, she measured our lawn with a ruler. Literally. I watched from my window as she crouched down, reading glasses perched on her nose, declaring our grass non-compliant because it exceeded 3.5 inches by a quarter inch. She emailed the violation to the entire HOA board within the hour. Day 6. A notice appeared on our door for improper waste management. Translation: our recycling bins were visible for 20 minutes before pickup. Day 8. She stopped my 10-year-old sister Emma mid-walk, demanding to see our dog's license. Emma came home crying, the leash tangled in her hands. Mom, Dr. Linda Chen, pediatric surgeon, calm under pressure even in emergency rooms, was visibly losing patience. She'd tried polite diplomacy with Patricia, even brought cookies once when we first moved in. That goodwill had long evaporated. Dad, however, remained infuriatingly calm. When I showed him the violation stack one night, he actually smiled. "Let her," he said simply. "Let her? She's harassing us." He swiveled his chair around from his desk, the glow of his monitor lighting half his face. Behind him, whiteboards filled with equations, robotics designs, and startup notes filled the room. "Marcus," he said, "sometimes when someone digs a hole for you, the smartest thing you can do is hand them a bigger shovel." I didn't understand then. But I was about to. Word of Patricia's campaign for community standards spread fast. At the neighborhood pool, whispers followed her name. Some residents defended her. She keeps the neighborhood nice. But more were growing tired. Mrs. Rodriguez told Mom how Patricia fined her $100 for growing tomatoes. The Johnsons said Patricia once threatened to remove their son's basketball hoop for noise pollution. Mr. Patel, who lived on the corner, revealed she'd blocked his home business license, claiming no commercial use allowed, even though her own friend ran a boutique bakery out of her garage. A pattern emerged. Patricia targeted anyone she considered different. Immigrants, young families, people with accents, people who didn't fit her idea of Riverside perfection. And until now, everyone had been too afraid, or too busy, to push back. That's when I started keeping records. Every notice, every email, every time-stamped photo. I talked to neighbors, asked for their stories under the guise of school research. One by one, they opened up. They were tired of being bullied by a woman whose only real power came from fear and apathy. Dad was collecting too, but in a different way. When I finally confronted him one night, he pushed his keyboard aside and faced me, calm as ever. "Why are you letting her get away with this?" I demanded. "Because," he said softly, We're not done collecting evidence. Then he told me everything. He was the anonymous donor funding the Riverside Park renovation, the playground, the walking trails, the community garden Patricia claimed credit for. Every dollar had come from Dad's LLC, $250,000 in total. Patricia had positioned herself as the project's hero, plastering her name on newsletters, posing for ribbon-cutting photos. But every receipt, every signed document traced back to him. He opened a folder on his desktop. It was filled with proof. Financial transfers, emails, donation requests signed by Patricia herself. She'd promised discretion, implying she'd give him no public recognition. Dad didn't care about credit, but he hated deceit. She thinks power means control, he said. But real power is accountability. He turned the screen toward me. You asked why I wasn't stopping her. The truth is, I've been preparing to. At the annual HOA meeting, he leaned back, steepling his fingers. Marcus, I want you to help me. Help you how? By learning something important. Power used wisely can free people. Power used cruelly enslaves them. We're not going to humiliate her. We're going to restore balance. From that night on, we worked together. Dad handled the legal side, contacting a real estate attorney friend. I handled the presentation, data, visuals, patterns. We compiled every complaint Patricia had filed, mapped them across demographics. The numbers were damning. 87% of her violations targeted non-white or immigrant families. We gathered testimonies. Mrs. Rodriguez agreed to speak. Mr. Patel brought his rejected license applications. The Johnsons prepared their documentation too. What had started as personal humiliation was now something bigger. A movement to reclaim our neighborhood. The night before the meeting, I peeked through my window. Across the street, Patricia was pacing her dining room, practicing her presidential speech, slides laid out in perfect order. She was smiling into a mirror, rehearsing glory. She had no idea that in less than 24 hours, her empire of pettiness would collapse in under 15 minutes. The Riverside Estates clubhouse had never seen so many people. 73 residents packed into a room built for 40, the air heavy with perfume, tension, and burnt coffee. Folding chairs creaked. The hum of fluorescent lights was almost oppressive. At the front of the room, Patricia Holbrook stood at her podium, radiating smug authority. Her slideshow clicked across the projector. Community Pride, a year of excellence. Photos of the park, smiling children, a plaque with her name engraved. She cleared her throat dramatically. As your HOA president, I've dedicated myself to preserving the values and beauty of Riverside Estates. This year, through tireless leadership, she smiled, I personally secured funding for the park renovation, ensuring our property values remain among the highest in the county. Applause rippled, thin, polite. A few skeptical murmurs followed. I sat in the back, laptop open, heart pounding. Dad sat beside me, serene as a monk. Ready? He whispered. I nodded. Patricia droned on, proposing new fines for unsightly trash cans, improper parking, non-standard lawn furniture. Her tone oozed superiority. We must uphold our image, she declared. And with your approval, I'd like to request a vote recognizing my service to the community. She smiled expectantly, waiting for applause. Instead, Mrs. Rodriguez stood. Her voice trembled at first. I've lived here for 20 years, she began, and I've loved this neighborhood. But I've also been fined 37 times for my vegetable garden. 37. She held up a folder, thick with papers. Tomatoes, basil, even lavender. Apparently, all a threat to our aesthetic standards. A murmur spread. Patricia tried to interrupt, but Mrs. Rodriguez continued, stronger now. She told me it was about property values. But my garden is fenced, neat, and perfectly legal under county law. Mr. Patel rose next, holding up a stack of printed emails. She blocked my home business, consulting work that never involved clients visiting my house. Claimed it was commercial activity. Yet her friend runs a baking business from her garage with HOA approval. The Johnsons followed. She told our son his basketball hoop was an eyesore, Mrs. Johnson said, her voice tight with emotion. She threatened fines until we took it down. But her nephew's hoop? Still there. Each testimony built momentum. The room shifted, like a tide turning. Patricia's face reddened. She banged the gavel. These accusations are baseless. Personal vendettas. Then Dad stood. The room went silent. I'm David Chen, he said calmly. I'd like to clarify something about the park renovation. He clicked his remote. The screen changed. Patricia's slideshow replaced by scanned contracts, payment receipts, wire transfers. The room collectively inhaled. All funding for the renovation came from my LLC, he said. $250,000. Paid in full. Mrs. Holbrook requested anonymity. I agreed. She then claimed full credit in public newsletters and press interviews. He paused, letting the shock settle. This isn't about recognition. It's about integrity, Patricia stammered. I facilitated, Dad clicked again. The next slide displayed a spreadsheet. Every violation Patricia had filed in the past 3 years, color-coded by household demographics. The numbers spoke louder than any accusation. 87% of citations targeted minority or immigrant families. A man stood up in the back. You fined me for having my cousin visit, he said. Told me too many cars that don't belong here. Another voice joined in. You told me my kids' chalk drawings were vandalism. Chaos brewed. Patricia raised her hands, shouting over them, but no one was listening anymore. The truth was out. Her reign of pettiness was over. A lawyer stood, a friend of Dad's. For the record, he said, Mrs. Holbrook's actions constitute harassment and potential discrimination under HOA governance law. The association is liable if this continues. Silence. All eyes turned to Patricia. Dad's voice was steady. I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I'm here to suggest an immediate vote of no confidence. The motion passed. Unanimously. Even her closest allies lowered their hands slowly, unwilling to meet her eyes. Patricia's face was as pale as her pantsuit. She gathered her papers with trembling hands, spine still straight, dignity bleeding from every pore. No one spoke as she walked out, heels clicking once again on the floor, echoing like the sound of a gavel. The silence that followed was cleansing. A weight lifted from the room. Mrs. Rodriguez was appointed interim president by acclamation. Someone suggested renaming the park Community Unity Park. For the first time in years, laughter filled the clubhouse. Neighbors exchanged numbers, planning a block party, not a witch hunt. I sat back, exhaling for what felt like the first time in 2 weeks. Dad smiled just faintly. See, he said, justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. 2 weeks later, I was back in the driveway, the sun high, the hose in my hand. The cars gleamed. Emma brought lemonade. Neighbors waved as they passed. Mrs. Rodriguez walked by with a clipboard, smiling this time. Across the street, a for sale sign stood planted in Patricia Holbrook's perfect lawn. I didn't feel triumphant, just peaceful. The neighborhood finally felt like home, because this wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who'd been silenced by someone who mistook fear for respect, control for leadership. Patricia lost because she ruled through intimidation. We won because we fought with patience, evidence, and truth. And as the sun glinted off the clean hood of the Tesla, I realized something Dad had tried to teach me all along. Real wealth isn't measured in cars or houses. It's measured in character. Quiet, steady, and unbreakable. Final message. In a world obsessed with instant victories, sometimes the most powerful justice is the kind you build slowly, with documentation, courage, and the refusal to let cruelty define your community. Marcus didn't defeat Patricia with anger. He defeated her with integrity. Because when you fight for what's right, the truth always washes clean. The truth always washes clean.